dropping another edition of the Talking Solutions, a podcast, and this time we are talking about having fun without alcohol. In this episode of the podcast, I'm sitting down with the founder of ISH, Morten Sorensen, with us today. And Morten, thank you so much for coming on and talking to me today about your startup.
Thanks, Will. I appreciate it. I'm excited to be on the podcast. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm very curious about your solution. I think it's a fantastic way to kind of reduce social pressure and to allow people to kind of have more fun and things of that nature. Alcohol is obviously something that, people intake because it is kind of fun. It kind of gets their juices flowing, but there's always kind of that limit that nobody really wants to pass, and they always regret it the next day. And that's where I think your product really can kind of come in and fit that on that front. So if you could just give us your background a little bit here, Morten. Tell the audience about who you are and why you decided to found Niche or ISH.
Thanks, Will. Definitely. My name is Morten Sorensen. I'm from Copenhagen, Denmark. And my background was actually in design, conceptual design. I was actually lived in Los Angeles for almost 5 years after starting an agency in Copenhagen, traveled around the world. I've been to, spending a lot of time in Cape Town, Kathmandu, Everest Base Camp, Trek, Australia, you name it, Bali, been around the world and basically working as a digital nomad. So creating concepts, me and my laptop along the way. And what I realized on that journey was that there was a lot of occasions to have a drink, right? You're fortunate enough to know people in these locations, or maybe knowing somebody that knows somebody, but like you're saying, well, a lot of the ritual comes around of that thing of having a drink. And that's where I came to the realization of like, what if I wasn't drinking? What would that mean for my social life and all of those things? So that's kind of the path that led me to the inception of the idea, at least.
Yeah, and I resonate with that so much as somebody who travels around and has gone to different places as well. Like that's kind of your go-to, right? When you meet somebody new, hey, let's go grab a drink, right? But that's the exact thought is what happens if you don't drink or anything, or maybe you don't want to drink or whatever it might be, but you get that kind of pressure like, oh, they're drinking a little bit. So that's where I think it really kind of comes up well, which kind of leads me into that next question here, because we want to really kind of figure out the problem at hand that you're solving for, which is fantastic. And I think too that a big problem is societal pressure in having alcoholic drinks at social functions and kind of being pushed or into that social norm as well. And what your product kind of does is basically allow you to do that, except in a non-alcoholic way, because your cocktails, your spirits, your beer and everything of that nature is so fantastic. So just kind of talk to me a little bit about what you think, kind of how this problem has evolved over time with social settings, and then also how you can kind of implement your products within that.
Yeah, and it's funny because I come from Denmark, and we are like the top of the statistics in terms of alcohol consumption. And maybe it's because it's so dark here, I don't know, but there is a big culture around drinking. And I was actually speaking to an anthropologist about this because we all have our experiences, exactly like you're saying. Well, we all know that scenario of like, hey, who's drink? Let's have drinks. And somebody's like, I'm not drinking. And then it's like, oh, why are you not? And then that whole shebang goes. And I was speaking to an anthropologist, and she was really cool. And she said, it's actually a subtle peer pressure, right? So we're kind of beyond the thing of like, pointing fingers, of being like, not respecting each other's, freedom to choose and so on, where it's like, hey, I'm not doing that. People will kind of give you a hard time. We're kind of beyond that in most scenarios. But actually, it's the subtle peer pressure where it's the peer pressure of not even saying anything, where it's just expected. Right. So you're breaking a habit and a pattern and a behavior that's been there forever. And that's kind of the main thing. And that means that a lot of people would never even go to the place of, hey, I'm not drinking. Right. Because it's just expected. And this is, especially in the younger demographics as well. So a big deal of that is the fact that having drinks together is something that, it's not necessarily because the other persons are necessarily bad people, or they're, douchey. It's not the case. It's just a matter that we actually meet over flavor. We meet over meals. We meet over drinks. And it's something that unites us. So the ritual is incredibly important for our social life. So I wanted to create something where we maintain that social aspect, because that makes us happier people, makes us live longer. But also, if you have the desire of drinking less alcohol, which about 2 out of 3 Americans has the desire to drink less. So if we take those things and add them up, we'll be like, there's a desire to drink less, there's a societal peer pressure, subtle, less subtle, whatever. And then, still being able to be social. We put all that together, we need the product, right? So we need the product that will actually create that solution. So if I'm going to do a birthday party and everybody is having gin tonics, I'll love a gin tonic. And then I get a gin tonic, it's just without alcohol. It looks like a gin tonic, smells like a gin tonic, and most importantly, it tastes like a gin tonic. And that means now we're sharing that experience of drinking a cocktail. And then suddenly those barriers of peer pressure goes down. So it's not somebody standing with 3 gin tonics and then somebody standing with a Coke. Then suddenly that's exclusive. So it's becoming more inclusive when we're all drinking the same drinks. Maybe somebody made it a double. Maybe somebody made it without alcohol. Doesn't matter as long as we're drinking drinks together.
Right, and I would imagine that kind of would bring intrigue as well. Like if somebody was like, "Hey, this tastes and looks exactly like a gin and tonic, but there's no alcohol," somebody's gonna be intrigued and want to try that too. I think as well, which I think is only just kind of a bonus too, and actually ignites social conversation as well on that front, and obviously great for your product. But within that as well, because obviously this has been something that has been a problem for a while now, I would imagine. And within that front too, I feel like that the challenge is, at least for me, is I always find it very difficult to find a fun kind of alternative drink option when, out at social events and things of that nature as well. So what's kind of the history behind that, and why hasn't something like this kind of already kind of caught on a little bit on that front?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's a big deal because we are seeing as mentioned before, 2 out of 3 Americans are looking to lower the alcohol intake, and we're seeing pockets of where it's arising and where it's growing. The whole category is growing tremendously, but there's still a lack, right? So we can't expect that everywhere we go that there will be a non-alcoholic option. There will be soda or juice, but we can't expect it to be a crafted non-alcoholic cocktail necessarily, or a great non-alcoholic wine. And I think it's similar to what we saw with vegetarian, gluten-free, and so forth, where you could, if you weren't eating gluten, for example, then or decided to adhere to a vegan diet, it would be difficult going out. It would be difficult because you would have to be kind of that annoying person of like, where is this and where is that, and then the restaurant and the entree, the on-premise caught on and be like, all right, there's a lot of demand for this, so we better put it on the menus because it's expected. And that's where we're heading with non-alcoholic as well, and low alcoholic for that matter. It's expected more and more to be on the menus, but it just takes time because we're creatures of habit, and it's like, well, we've always done like this, and blah blah blah, and it's not necessary, but it is, and that's what we're seeing more and more. So, like our first account in the U.S. was 11 Madison Park in New York, 3-star Michelin restaurant. They were also a restaurant that decided to take their 3 stars and be like, we're going to go full vegan, and kept their 3 stars, mind you. So it's venues like this, it's these like front runners that are changing the category and changing the behaviors, where it's then becoming expected if you're going to a place that cares about their hospitality and cares about making sure that all guests feel welcome.
Right. And when you're carrying a lot, especially kind of, within the businesses and the events, for them to be able to kind of sell this product as well, I would imagine a challenge for you guys and ISH is really just kind of getting awareness out about it as well, a little bit about your product and kind of people to embrace it on that front. Because I think once it's kind of people are more aware of it, I think that the opportunity to buy something like your product, as you've mentioned and seen with the deal at the Madison Park with the 3-star Michelin restaurant and everything as well, I think it's a matter of awareness. So how much of your kind of efforts and whatnot and challenges have been associated with trying to get that product out in front of people so that they can try it and test it out and see how great that it really is?
It's a great question. We actually decided very early on that we want to make sure that we communicate to the industry that wants to listen to us. Right, so there's plenty out there. We want to talk to that. We're not in the business of convincing anybody. To be honest, we're not in the business of trying to shove something down people's throats. That's not what we want to do. So we want to talk to the people that knows about the category and wants to taste and try our products, and the ones that don't know anything about the category but are eager to learn more about the category. But we're not really interested in talking to the people that cross their arms and being like, that's not something that we want to do, because they're like, that's fine, don't worry about it, it's all good. So we communicate very much to the ones that want to look into this, and we're experts in our field. We're one of the first movers in this category, creating products that are now in 20 different markets and over 40 international taste awards and so on. So we really know what we're doing. So we help consult the different venues, the different buyers and groups to be able to put this on their menu and understand what benefits there are. It's not just the benefit of us selling a product or them selling a product. It's much more. It's on a social level and so forth. And I'm sure we'll get into that. But it's understanding the bigger picture of what non-alcoholic can do to your venue and how it can contribute. So we spend a lot of time on that. I'm on the board of ANBA, which is the first adult non-alcoholic beverage association in the world, and I'm doing that together with other non-alcoholic brands because we're building this category together. So we've united and trying to create some association around this that helps both brands and the buyers and the vendors out there to make this even more mainstream, and that's what we're working for.
Awesome. Yeah, I would be your target demographic. I would love that opportunity to kind of mix a few drinks, and after a few alcoholic drinks, be able to kind of keep partake, but with something kind of non-alcoholic on that front as well. And, Morten, there's one thing that we kind of talked about before, when we were first introduced and whatnot as well, that really kind of stood out to me and something that I really didn't know. And I certainly want to return back and really dive into your solution and, figure out some ways where people can get this and the benefits. Mm-hmm. But the one thing that you said that really kind of stood out to me that I wasn't aware of was the fact that alcohol impacts 13 of the 17 UN Sustainable Development Goals. That was something that I thought was really interesting and something I hadn't really thought about before on that front. Can you just kind of go into a little bit of detail and explain how alcohol kind of is impactful in so many different situations?
Yeah, definitely. I'm glad you're bringing it up, Will, because I'm obsessed by this report. So it's done by the WHO, and yes, this talks about the 17 SDGs, and it's we're all different businesses. In an industry looking into how do we make the world a better place, right? How do we remove plastic from the oceans? How do we, less CO2 and more green and so forth, making people more healthy and so as well, especially on the back end of a pandemic and so on. So that's really, in all of our mindsets. What's interesting is that WHO came out with this report underlining that 13 of these 17 global goals are undermined by alcohol. And if you kind of think about it, it kind of makes sense. Alcohol is something that slows us down, mentally and so forth. It's not good for health, right? We all know that. I'd enjoy alcohol as well. I'm a mindful drinker, so I'll enjoy some alcohol, some without, and so on. So it's not about anti-alcohol; it's about moderation, and it's about making sure that we are moderating our alcohol so that we can live up to these 17 global goals. So besides health, it's also poverty. Like it's incredibly difficult to break a poverty chain if there's too much alcohol involved. Education, the same, but also on equality, right? So when there's too much alcohol in a room at an occasion, there can be unwanted attention for different sexes and so on. And that's, so it plays a lot of part in a lot of different areas of the global goals, which are incredibly important. And what we're saying is that, we're not a brand that's going to come out and say anti-alcohol by any means, because that's not how we feel. Alcohol is fine in its capacity. But what we want to do is we want to inspire to be, balancing the alcohol culture, creating more of a balance and creating, an alcohol culture that's more on the positive and removing the negatives. And that's why we're seeing that there are different restrictions on alcohol, because governments and so on understand this costs a lot of money. People drink so much alcohol, it's going to make people sick, and it's no bueno. So what we're trying to do is creating this and inspiring through a great product that tastes like the original alcoholic products, implementing that in different scenarios. We want to take the kind of the top off the alcohol, right? So kind of like you were saying before, like during a night, then you're having a few drinks. Maybe you'll have a nice glass of red wine, maybe a tequila shot at the bar, and then you move over to the non-alc. So you start with the non-alcs. You kind of implement that, and it's actually a life hack when you think about it. You're going to be healthier. You're going to have less hangover the day after. You're going to be better to your body. You're going to be better to society. You're going to be making the world a better place, basically, because you're not taking that heaviness of the alcohol and spreading that out, which in the unhealthy manner is detrimental to these global goals. So and I could talk about it for hours, honestly, just about these global goals, because I think it's so important that we're spending so much time and energy on trying to make the world a better place as a community, you know, and doing so, but you know, overseeing this factor which is so incredibly important.
Right. Yeah. I mean, think about if you're able to kind of change that culture, kind of like what you said, to more mindful drinking in general, right? I mean, think about how much more productive people will be able to be the next day if they don't have that one drink that puts them over the top. And then that next day is spent being lethargic in bed, non-productive. And, you know, instead that day can be spent doing something as small as, you know, cleaning up around the house, right? Or anything of that nature as well in the day that makes you more productive, that can kind of help and inspire change kind of on that front too, I think, moving forward. So it's, and you mentioned it, health. I mean, the health benefits surrounding alcohol. I mean, over consumption of alcohol it's terrible. You know, heart disease, cancers, everything. And we've seen that increase in recent years and in recent decades.
We are, and it's becoming this, like, you know, like a lifestyle disease, right? That's what's happening. So everything that we consume has an impact on our bodies. We all know that now. We know that from food and so on. But a lot of people are overlooking the alcohol part. And I think that's a really, really important thing. I was just trying to look for a statistic that I saw the other day about how many hours a typical person spends having a hangover. I can't remember the number, but it was something ridiculous where you're like, what, is that real? Which, you know, is, I'll follow up with it and put in the notes. But it's those kind of things where when you stop up and think, you're like, what the heck? And we also know those evenings where it goes over the top. We know those, like you said initially. And then we know those where you're just having that perfect buzz and it's wonderful and it's great. And the day after you feel fine, you're going to take a hike and everything's great, you know, where you're like, oh, that was really nice. And it's that like magic, you know, lining there that I think is important, while not feeling that you're compromising or feeling that you're like, oh, I got to leave early, or no, thank you, or, you know, all that. But no, yes, let's consume more. Let's celebrate more. Let's pop that bottle of bubbles on a Tuesday because we just got a raise or whatever, you know, and just celebrate more.
Exactly. Right. And that's the social component. You mentioned earlier about how important we are as social creatures to our health and our relationships. Right. You know, so that's really important as well. You know, there's that one study, I think, out of Harvard where they took those sophomore men and they found that being social and having good relationships was the most important contributor to longevity. Right. And so that's what your product encourages. And that's what I want to get into now. How is it that you guys are able to create such fun and great tasting cocktails without any alcohol and kind of make it fun and give that same vibe of alcohol, but without the actual negativities of the alcohol itself?
Yes. So I love this question because it's, you know, to start off with, it's not difficult creating a non-alcoholic product, but it's incredibly difficult creating a non-alcoholic product that tastes like alcohol. Alcohol is one molecule, ethanol, and ethanol is the best carrier of taste you can find. So when you take a sip of alcohol, imagine like a bourbon, you take that sip and all those notes of like the cask and the vanilla and the spices and all those things will just like explode, and you get up your nose and all your sensors will like be rewarded for doing so, right? If you love a bourbon, obviously, which I do. And right. And if you don't have the alcohol part, then you're not able to create that same explosion, because what happens with alcohol, it evaporates and it creates the volatility of the flavors, which then, you know, makes this whole sensation amazing. If you don't have that alcohol, you don't have that volatility in the flavor. So what we've done is that we want to create that same sensoric. So we have our own in-house team here at the ISH office, as we call it, the office here in Copenhagen. And we develop our products. So what we've done is we've taken all natural ingredients. That's the first and foremost. For us, taste is always key. It has to be the right flavor, and it has to be, you know, mind blowing in that experience. So we take different components. So if we take our rum, for example, we're now on our third generation of our rum in 4 years. So we keep developing on it, right? And what we've done is that we've actually taken a full strength rum from the Caribbean. From Jamaica and Martinique. We take that, we de-alcoholize it through something called a supercritical CO2 extraction, low temperatures extruding the molecule of ethanol. So then you're left with a base. When you remove that one ethanol, you can maintain all the flavor components, all those notes and all those molecules. We're still missing the alcohol, which is really important. So then for that lack, then we add in new ingredients. So we take vanilla from the Sava region in Madagascar. We take baked apple. We take nutmeg. We take actually the shells of the seeds of chilies. So adding all these things together, we're able to give it that lift. So then when you're taking a sip of this, you'll be like, all right, I get rum, I get heat, I'm getting that warming sensation, I'm getting the notes of vanilla, and so on and so on. So basically, we're taking those things that are being, dulled down by that removing the alcohol, and then pumping it back up with some flavors that we've then distilled and washed. You kind of give it a wash bath, or you can use steam and so on to extrude these different molecules. So it's very scientific in that matter. What's important to say is that our rum, for example, it's designed to put in a cocktail. So it's designed to create that rum element in a daiquiri, in a Mai Tai, in a Cuba Libre, and so on. So it's designed to do that and create those, like all those rum notes and that warmth and everything, that when you take it and you add Coke or you add like lime and sugar, you're going to make a cocktail and you'll be like, this is a cocktail that I cannot taste the difference on. And that's really, really exciting. And we won a gold award for our rum at the San Francisco World Spirits Challenge, or World Spirits, competition or something. It was like, yeah, amazing. So that's what we do, and we do it all different. I can talk about all the products for hours as well, but that's how we do it, like specifically on the rum, to create those notes and all that amazing flavor.
I definitely want to ask you about the products, right? We want to give everybody an opportunity to hear, what is it that you make and all of that, and how they can incorporate it into social gatherings and things of that nature as well. But curious to hear about the lifespan, how long, or maybe not the lifespan, I'm sorry, but how long does it take to kind of create that flavor to mimic the alcohol? How long is that kind of time frame?
We spend a good amount of like 12 to 18 months to develop a product. So we go through a lot of renditions. We go through a lot of back and forth and adjustments and so on. So that's what it takes us to put out a product. And it takes a while. It takes a long time. And I think we're probably the slowest in the industry, I would say, because we just care so much about that quality and just creating that like liquid to be perfect.
Wow, fantastic. Yeah, 12 to 18 months. That's a little bit of that's a little while, but at the same time, if you're getting that mimic taste, if you're getting that's so unique to the market and so unique to consumers that really, I feel like their biggest hesitation is a lot of people still want to feel like they're drinking that alcohol. If you can mimic that perfectly, then you're doing so on that front as well. And find it a little interesting myself, because I worked at a winery during a summer one time and made some wine. And so I was very curious, just kind of hear about that cycle as well.
And on the wine, specifically, we actually have two different wine products. So we have one wine product which is sparkling. Sparkling is a little bit easier to mimic, to be honest, because you get volatility from the carbonation. So you drink the bubbles, and the flavors will lift if you have good flavors and good grapes. Like we use Merlot and Pinot Blanc for our rosé. We use Solvana and Pinot Blanc for our sparkling white. So we use really, really good grapes, because we know we're gonna lean on those grapes for all the expression together with the carbonation. So that helps us a lot. We've just launched a white wine, which is still white wine, and we love a nice glass of chilled white wine, any time of year essentially. And what we've done there is that we've done the same process of removing the alcohol, removing that ethanol, and so on, maintaining the grapes. But what happens when you don't have the carbonation, you're left with something that's a little dull. It becomes a little bit flat because you don't have the lift from the alcohol. So there we actually use the same technique that we know from our rum. So we add in ingredients like oak wood, mirabelles, peppercorns, things that goes in and creates sensation on like the tongue, on the back of your mouth, that gives lift and a vibration feel. Warms a little bit, but not too much, because this is a white wine. This is not a 40 proof 40% rum. So there we're like working with a little bit different techniques, but same universe basically. So we're the first to create a white wine that we're positioning as a white wine and saying this is experienced as a white wine, and we just launched it a month ago, and we're close to sold out already, and it's really a revolutionary product that we're incredibly excited about.
Keeping iterating. Congratulations on that one. That sounds really interesting. I'm
Thank
gonna have
you.
to give that one a try.
For sure.
Morten, expand a little bit more on your products. I want to give you the opportunity. Obviously, we know we got spirits and some rum. What other spirits do you have? Some white wine, rosé. So tell us a little bit about all the products that you offer.
Yeah, exactly. So the wine we went through, we have sparkling white, sparkling rosé, and now white wine. Next year, you're going to see a red wine and a rosé as well. And they were actually supposed to be done about a year ago, but they were just not good enough, to be honest. So we've given them another full year of development. So when they come out, hopefully in the spring, they're going to be fantastic. So we're working on that very, very focused right now. On the spirit side, we have a gin and a rum that we started with. That was our first go-to products that we started with. And then recently, actually in May for Cinco de Mayo, we launched our Reposado tequila. So these all work well, as I described with the rum. They work really well in cocktails. So you mix a gin tonic, you mix a margarita, a paloma, you mix a dark and stormy, a daiquiri, and so all these classic cocktails. And that's really what we're trying to accomplish, is that we want to create the same sensations as you know from the cocktails you're used to. That's why we believe non-alcoholic beer is so successful, because you're getting a beer experience, but you're just getting it without the alcohol. So that's what we want to create in the wine, spirits, and cocktails as well. On the gin, we use juniper berries from the southern of Europe. We use coriander seeds from Provence in France. We use again the pepper, the chili seeds. That we use the shells of the seeds of the chilies to give that heat, and so on, a little bit of bitter orange and so on. In the tequila, we use organic blue agave from Mexico, of course, and then we use a little bit of bay leaf and barley to give it those earthy notes that we know from tequila, and then a little bit of brown sugar to give it some roundness, and then we use American oak wood actually to give it that feel that it's been on a barrel for 3-4 months, right? So reposado has been on a barrel for like 2 to 12 months to make it a reposado, right? Take an añejo, put it on barrel. So that's kind of what we're going for, that reposado style, a little more golden and more flavor than just a blanco, which gives us that ability to add in some ingredients. So that's what it's all about. Like, we couldn't make a vodka for example, because it doesn't taste like anything. It tastes like ethanol, and so we wouldn't be able to mimic that. So taking different flavor components and adding that together, that's what we're doing. And lastly, we have our canned cocktails. I'm enjoying one right now, which is our mojito. There's our latest one here. I'm basically having one a day of these. And we have mojito. We have a gin and tonic. We have a spritz, so kind of like the Aperol spritz, like the American or Italian aperitif. And then we have a lime daiquiri. So these are different cocktails that we've done pre-mixed. So again, going back to our purpose of making it easy to be a mindful drinker, we need to have a big enough of a selection to really, speak to any consumer. So somebody wants to bring a few cocktails on a can with them to the beach, go ahead, or to the barbecue. Somebody wants the theater of shaking that cocktail like a daiquiri and pouring in a beautiful chilled coupe glass, and somebody wants to just pop a bottle of wine, but we can speak into all of those occasions, and that makes us one of the world's broadest range of non-alcoholic products, and also one of the most award-winning.
Yeah, on that note, let's dive through some scenarios where people can kind of incorporate this, and because there are many ways where I think that this could be great for people who, number one, don't drink alcohol at all. Number two, drink alcohol but never want to get to that point where they feel bad the next day, right? And just in general. So you mentioned the beach with the craft cocktails and the cans, right? You take that to it.
Mm-hmm.
We've just had Thanksgiving here. I imagine that, people being able to buy a bottle of wine for Thanksgiving dinner to kind of mix in as well. Because we all know, at least for us Americans, Thanksgiving dinner can get a little out of hand sometimes, depending. So what are some of those events? And do you you mentioned the 3-star Michelin restaurant as well. Are you partnering with, hotels or restaurants or event organizers and things of that nature as well? In addition, obviously, for consumers being able to just pick this up themselves and incorporate it in family dinners or friendly gatherings and beach days, things of that nature.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it covers, there's a lot of occasions, obviously, and if we dive kind of into them, where we can see the absolutely most potential in terms of occasions and where people use it a lot, is to be a good host, honestly. And it's and what we're seeing is that there's about 2/3 of the consumption of non-alc happens at home, which is interesting, because You buy it online, you buy it in retail, you buy it, in your local specialty store. You take it home with you. You want to be that good host. Maybe you have a sister-in-law that comes by and she's pregnant, or you have your cousin who's always the designated driver, or you just want to inspire your guests that are health conscious people to be like, here's cocktails, but I know kind of we're on a vibe, and we're we want to be a little bit more healthy. So so being a good host is actually one of the main occasions where it happened at home at dinner parties. Secondly, actually, which was a little bit surprising to me, we got this from data speaking to our consumers and beyond, is unwinding. So, which is not necessarily a social event. And like I mentioned earlier, it was all about social why I started ISH. There's actually a really big thing of people coming home from work, taking it easy, might have been a long day, and you want that rum and Coke, right? Or you want that mojito or a spritz. And you're like, well, it's Wednesday afternoon and I'm maybe not in the mood to drink alcohol as well because I get a little tired of it, or it slows me down, or I need to cook dinner, or the kids are coming home, or whatever it is. And those occasions, you can actually, with a good conscience, you can kind of be like, I'm going to drink my spritz and I'm going to take it and I'm going to chill, and that's all I need, and that's perfect, right? So that's a big occasion as well. And if we move into the more kind of professional segment, something like corporate is huge for us because it's in corporate, when we drink, it's about being very social. So it's about uniting us. It's about team building. It's about, a Friday bar, or celebrating somebody's birthday or anniversary, or whatever. And there, if only half of the people are drinking alcohol and you're serving alcohol, then you're not really doing what you're trying to do, because a lot of people will just be standing with a soda, So we've had a lot of success in corporate, where it's uniting people. So, and we recommend both having alcohol and non-alcoholic, because it allows people to have the option, right? So we'll be like, enjoy it. Let's drink drinks. Let's have a good time. Let's unite. Let's do all that. But giving people the freedom to choose there. So that's a big thing, because it also positions the workplaces as a conscious workplace, right? So that's good. And then in restaurants, which is the main on the on-premise, people go to restaurants to drink or to eat and then maybe drink. Where bars, you go to drink and you go to drink. There you go. You enjoy your meal and then you pair it with someone. And that's where we have a broad enough selection, where we have restaurants that are pairing with cocktail. We have a 2-star Michelin restaurant in Copenhagen called Alchemist, which is pairing our tequila like a Pandang tequila with the meals. And then we have places, 11 Madison Park, they serve cocktails as well, but they also serve our wine for the courses. So there's a lot of different occasions and a lot of different reasons to implement. And honestly, the goal for us is the fact that we don't even, consider it alcohol or non-alcoholic, but we just drink drinks, right? So the less we actually talk about that and just drink drinks, be like, I want a number 4, I'll take a number 2, whatever. We're drinking drinks. It's great. Something has 40 proof and something has 0 proof, and we drink drinks together.
Right. And I love how the individual kind of has the choice, because you're explaining so many scenarios, and then I'm thinking scenarios in my head, right? I mean, the one thing that you said that I found really interesting was the unwinding. I did a little bit of a social experiment on myself, because some people I think would argue and say, well, the whole point of the unwinding is the fact that you have the alcohol, and, the alcohol is what kind of tapers you down. But, I did this thing one time with coffee where I did decaf and caffeinated, and I would have someone give me whatever for each day and to see if I had noticed the difference. For me, it was just the act of having the coffee that made me kind of feel more alert and awake. And I think the same could probably be said for the alcohol drinks to unwind too. So that was something that kind of was like, whoa, that makes a lot of sense. And, scenarios for me, like personally, like just to share how one might use it. I think, I would love to go to a place, have 2 or 3 drinks, and then kind of mix it up and go, okay, I still want that cocktail because I need something in my hand. Because like you said, everybody has something, and you can get that cocktail and drink it. So I love the individual kind of choice and the options that we have within that front as well. Morten, I'd be curious.
Exactly. And we'll just, but I just, one important part in that as well is the low alcoholic versions, right? So it's not about either or necessarily. So like one of my favorite drinks is a margarita. Yeah, I used to live in LA, a lot of day drinking, Sunday fun days and all that, it's awesome. But the fact when you have like 3, 4, margaritas at like 20% alcohol, you're gonna feel it, you're gonna feel a lot. So what you can also do is, like, for example, with our tequila. mix a classic margarita as you do with our non-alcoholic tequila, lime, and simple syrup, and then a little bit of contour, right, for that orange liqueur. And then you make like a 3%er instead of a 20%er. And that means that you can either drink more during the day, or you drink what, those 3-4 cocktails, and you just basically had what, a half or a full cocktail would have. And that allows you to also moderate in a smart way. And honestly, that is a life hack. I swear to God, it's such a life hack, because you're having that experience. You're having it without alcohol as well, but you can have it with low alcohol, and you're having that experience. And we think I think it's a life hack, unless you're there to just get hammered as soon and fast as possible, then don't drink ish. Disclaimer, don't drink ish. But if you're not, if you're just there to be social and to have those drinks and be part of that vibe, drink ish. I mean, you're saving your body, you're saving everything, and you're gonna be still having a very, very, very good time.
Yeah, exactly. What I love most about the product, again, is the whole culture around the mindful drinking. That's something that everybody talks about. That's something that you see in every alcohol label: drink responsibly, blah, blah, blah. And your product allows people to do that without compromising the experience of drinking, which I think is fantastic, and excited to hear about the new products you continue to come up with as well. But Morten, I'd be curious to hear about some of the challenges that you've had to overcome since, you guys started the company, I believe it was 2018. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah, that's correct.
So what are some of the challenges? Obviously, the biggest one is, how do you create an alcoholic beverage that tastes like alcohol, gives that experience? But what other things, as a founder and things of that nature, have you experienced that have been a bit difficult?
It's I think when you start a journey like something like I did with Ish, initially it was just me, one-man band with an idea, and trying to get help from people that I knew and people that knew people, and trying to figure out, like, how do I create this liquid? I could create the concept myself because that's my background, but creating the liquids around it and all of that, very challenging, very, very challenging, and remains still challenging. We're always trying to challenge ourselves, and I see challenges as a expected, and also a good thing, because it makes us better, right? So that's initially based on the product development side and all of that. And building a business that we've been building over the last 4 years, basically, and growing to about 20 people in the team, about 20 markets as well, is tolling. It's a lot of work. And I think the most challenging for me is that I work a lot, and I appreciate working a lot. I've done that my whole life. But being challenged and creating something new, where you're reminded every single day that you're a pioneer, is a whole other level of strain, right? So I can work, constantly, and I love working, and it's great. But when you're constantly challenged of, like, trying to make decisions on left or right, or up and down, or like where we're going, and you're always trying to do the right thing, that's the most challenging part for me as a founder. And I learned very early on that the best thing for me is to build a team. And with the ambition and with the aspiration and the hopes and the purpose and the desire to create with Ish, it was very, very obvious that I could not do that alone. That was never the intention, essentially. But early on, I realized, okay, I need help. So what I did actually is I passed on the CEO chair to a guy called Peter. Peter Brun, and he has a lot of experience. He has a lot of experience in the food industry, and really at McKinsey consultant type, and really structured in his way of doing things. I've been managing massive businesses, where we're this small. He's been managing big businesses. So attracting a person like that to come in and take the reins as a CEO has been a game changer for us. It's allowed me to lower my shoulders a little bit, allowed me to play the part that I'm good at, which is the founder. And what I spend a lot of my time on is the category. So ANBA, for example, the Adult Non-Alcoholic Beverage Association, out speaking to our, with our sales team, being out in the field, educating, talking, inspiring about the category. And like I mentioned earlier, we speak to the individuals that want to listen, somebody that wants to be like, tell us your story, tell us why is this important, what's happening, what's going on, and so on. And I'm intrigued, and that's my finest job. So understanding that the biggest challenge for me was that I was gonna crash. I was gonna crash with stress and everything if I was trying to do everything myself. but getting the right people on the team, just that made us grow. That made the big difference of taking something from an idea and something where, hey, this is fun and I can do something, to make it a serious business that we're actually making a proper difference in the world.
Love that. That sounds like such a wonderful journey where you've been at, and a lot of kind of self-discovery as well, as like, hey, this is what I'm really great at in this role, and this is where I need to kind of delegate or have somebody partner with and work with me on this front too. So that sounds like a wonderful kind of journey that you've kind of went through as you've gone on. And curious about what you guys are challenging, or I'm curious about what you guys are solving for now. What are some of the future plans for ISH as you guys kind of move forward? You mentioned the new products coming out in the spring, hopefully, of 2023, but what else you got on the docket?
Yeah, so I'm actually flying to the US on next Friday. So I'm going to be there. US is a big market for us. It's one of they're the most prone to growth over the next year. So there's about a 28% CAGR, like a compound annual growth rate until 25, where the second largest market, which is the UK, is at 6%. So US is on fire. Like it's happening for reals in the US. So I'm going there as the founder, and I'm going to be living out there for a period of time. And basically, we're already exporting a bunch of products to the US. And have a lot of great people that we work with, like Boisson in New York. That's a non-alcoholic store that's also opened on the West Coast, and other plenty of outlets like the 11 Madison Parks and so on. So I'm gonna be there. I'm gonna be there working with them, getting them even more educated on ISH, and just taking the next steps on making ISH even more manifested in the US market. So that's like top focus for me.
Love it. Love that. Yes, the U.S. market is big, and the U.S. can use a little bit of education on mindful drinking. So looking forward to seeing that as well, Morten, on that front.
I'll do my best. I'll do my
best. Yes, there you go. You got to be the pioneer, as you mentioned earlier. Morten, let's talk about how people can find your product. All right. How can people kind of get some of your products, and where can they kind of learn a little bit more about ISH and be able to experience these beverages?
So we have a website, ishspirits.com, and we have a warehouse in the U.S. So we're shipping domestically in the U.S. So that's the best place to get them. If you're in Chicago, go to a store called Foxtrot. So Foxtrot is super cool, like high-end retail space where you can go grab a glass of wine, for example. You sit and work with the computer, very specialty. If you're hitting any of the restaurants that we're at, perfect. If you're in the Atlanta area, we have a lot of coverage in the Atlanta area. We're working with a fantastic team called the Zero Proof that's based in Atlanta. So we have a lot of coverage there. Wisconsin, we just picked up distribution, so we're going to be seeing it more and more there. And also Massachusetts is big for us. So yeah, so we're city by city. We're going to be more and more present out there, but the best way would definitely be on online to get shipped locally.
Fantastic. And if people want to stay up to date with the news, follow along the company, things of that nature as well, where can they learn more information? Social media, website?
Yeah, Instagram would be perfect. So ISH Spirits on Instagram as well. That's where we keep posting everything that we're doing. We'll be posting events. We do a lot of events, like for Cinco de Mayo, for example, last year or this year we did. We were serving margaritas in the West Village in New York, and we'll be doing plenty of that, especially come dry January and all of that. So follow along there and stay tuned on what's happening.
Love it. Yes. And you can go to ishspirits.com. That's ISH Spirits, SPIRITS.com, and follow them over on Instagram and social media as well. And of course, you can find those links on their website too. Morten, anything else that you would kind of like to add or promote or talk about before I let you go here that maybe we may have missed?
I think we covered a lot. Well, it's really been a pleasure to speak with you today, and appreciate everybody listening in. To round off, I just want to say that the purpose of why we exist is that we want to make it easy to be a mindful drinker, right? We believe everyone deserves a drink. It's inclusive, it's fun, it's good times, and we want to make a difference. We don't put products out that's not needed. We don't believe the world needs any more products. It needs products that make a difference. So when we say people deserve a drink, it means that when you're taking a sip, you should be rewarded for taking a sip. And we want to blow people's minds. And anyone that tries, give us feedback. Let us know what you think. If you end up, stumbling upon an ISH product, let us know, because we can always be better. We can always improve our liquids and create better and better experiences. And that's essentially in our DNA. So just want to end with that and be very precise on why we exist. It's the purpose that we stand out for every day. That's what keeps us going, is why we can attract top-notch people on our team that believe in that concept as well. And remember, mindful drinking is not about not drinking alcohol. It's just about moderating and hacking it and being able to do more and celebrating more.
I love it. Love your solution, Morten. I think it's going to be very positive and beneficial to society as well. Not most importantly to individuals' health. Alcohol, obviously, when taken out of hand and out of control, can really add up over time and really be negative towards your health. We talked about how it impacts the 13 of the 17 UN SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals. And so being able to kind of work on those things and improve. And then, of course, benefiting people's lives, providing more productivity, making people feel better. I'd love to follow up with me on that stat about how much time people spend hungover in America. I'd love to hear that, because I'd be a little afraid, but I'd love to hear it on that front as well. So love what you guys are doing. Really looking forward to it. I brought you guys up at a party I was at the other day on a 30th birthday party. A couple women were there. They were pregnant. And then I brought it up. I said, well, yeah, how would you feel about a non-alcoholic beverage? And they said, oh, we'd love it. It's just hard to find one that kind of tastes like alcohol. And I said, check out ISH. There it is.
Here we go. Well,
yeah,
love
an
it.
Ambassador. No, but Morten, thank you so much again for coming on the show. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Well, take care.
That is Morten Sorensen. He is the founder of ISH. They serve non-alcoholic cocktails, spirits, wines, everything of that nature to make you feel like you had the experience of drinking alcohol, but in a much more mindful way as well. You can go to the beach, take some of their cocktail cans that you would work just like a Truly or anything of that nature, except non-alcoholic. And then again, the really great ways to mix it on that front. You can make a margarita, and maybe you want to use the non-alcoholic tequila, and then you can put a little bit of a liqueur in there as well on that front, make it less alcoholic. Lots of great ways that you can utilize this as well. So definitely go check them out on their website and on social media. And if you enjoyed this episode of the podcast, I would really appreciate if you dropped a review below. Hit the subscribe button to follow for more interesting solutions and things of that nature as well that are helping to improve society on that front. And then, of course, check out the newsletter as well for more information on ISH and all the other great founders and startups. So on that note, I hope everybody enjoys the rest of their week, and I look forward to talking to you in the next episode. Thanks for listening to the Talkin' Solutions podcast. Tune in every Wednesday for a new episode, and check out all of our guests on our website at cheshtech.com. That's CHESHTECH.com to learn more as we continue our mission of supporting impact-driven founders. Be sure to follow us on Instagram at Talkin' Solutions Podcast and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Talkin' Solutions. If you like this episode, I'd really appreciate a review and a recommendation to a friend as we focus on highlighting these great founders and individuals providing solutions to societal problems and bringing optimism into the world.